Hello Tech Genius, I am Ravi. Have you ever imagined a place where learning is as dynamic as the technology shaping your world? Then here's a deal. With iMatix, you can make sure the learning is exciting, impactful right from the beginning. You have interactive sessions with expert-led courses. In the world of tech, from data science to cloud computing, it's not just about a session, it's about doing, building, learning by solving real problems. So let's get started. We have seen how would you expose your PEGA application as a service arrest. For that, the core is going to be a service activity where you put in your logic. The scenario we have taken is about retrieval of a customer record. You receive a customer ID and then you return a customer record. That's the scenario we took. You can implement any kind of business logic. It could be a data manipulation or it could be any kind of functionality, could be part of your activity. And we call that the service activity because that's the whole core of the service. Then we created a service package which is like a prerequisite to create a service, your packet. When I say it's a prerequisite, you decide what is the authentication that you're looking at. What is the access group that you're allowing? All that is part of your service package. Once my package is created, we have initiated a service REST rule where you defined a scope as in which class your activity is available. You have defined the scope. Then, according to the method, according to the purpose of your service, is it you're retrieving a record? Is it you're retrieving the data? You're updating the data? You're inserting the data? Accordingly, you can choose from get, put, post and delete. As we have chosen a retrieval, we use the get method. In the get, we have two things, the request and the response. This is something which we have to be careful about. What are your request parameters and what are your response parameters? Onto which property are you mapping it? The first thing is request parameters is where you define the requests that you get from the other application. That is being mapped to what property on your clipboard. Map to would be available. Which property on the clipboard are you mapping it? Then your service activity is executed and all that. All that data manipulation or your business logic is executed. And then you will have the data on one or the other properties. Make sure that is rightly pointed back on the map from. This mapping is what is really important. Request parameters are always mapped to, whereas the response parameters are mapped from. From where? From which key? From the clipboard and from the customer data. This is just one thing that we have to be really keen on, the mapping of the parameters. And we know this is your endpoint to all L. We were able to run the transaction, we were able to run a service, and we have seen it is fetching in the data. Along with the service, now let us create a connector, because now we know how to expose the application as a service. And what if you would like to have a connector for your PEGA application? Both are never done on the same environment. I don't need both the service and the connector on the same environment. But as we are doing it on a local host, let us create a connector to utilize this particular service. Ideally, they have to be on two different applications. Either you can expose your PEGA application as a service or a connector depending upon the context. Now let us create a connector in order to utilize this particular service. This is going to be my endpoint URL. Now for creation of a connector, we have a wizard. Now for the service, I don't have a wizard, it's just the rule is created directly. But whereas for the connector, there's a wizard, there are a lot of rules that are created in the backend. Some new classes are created. The system has provided a wizard for us. Let's see. Configure. Then integration and then connectors. I have an option to create different connectors from the wizard. Let me choose the rest. You mentioned the service and the connector should be on different questions. I mean, when you're talking about the same functionality, both can never be on one single server or on one single system. They have to be on two different applications. But if you are dealing with multiple external applications or external data sources, I mean if they are different, then for few I can have services and for few I can have connectors. I mean provided both are not same. I mean both are not pointing to one functionality. You have 4 steps involved in creating a connector. Let me name the connector because as we are retrieving the customer data, let me name it get and mention your endpoint URL. And then I have some query string parameters. If you remember, you have added a query string parameter here for the request, which is customer identifier. This is what I should give when I run or when I would like to use this service. In fact, it could be the same or you can give another also. But for now, I would just let it be. I'll add it in the next step. And this is how my URL is broke down into my package and the version retrieve customer. In fact, if you want, maybe I can have the customer ID directly here itself. This could be my one of the parameters that I would like to pass. This could also be one of the scenario where directly through the URL only I can pass the data. But in most of the scenarios we wouldn't do it considering the security and the privacy of data. We wouldn't add it directly on the URL. This will rarely happen. Remove this. And the same parameters, like I said, I'll add it on the next method, next screen. I'll tell you why. Here I would be adding my query string parameters because here it is specific to each of the methods. As I'm dealing with a get method, And how did the system know that I'm talking about a get method here? Any guesses? Because we mentioned in the service method it's a get. In fact, nothing like that. By default, you will have the get method selected. I mean, because you did not even interact with the service far, and there's no interaction with the service. This is just a default selection that is made. I can always go ahead and change it. Here, what I'll do is here on the get method, I'll override this currently in the earlier screen. I did not add any string parameters, but now I would like to override the same thing. What is the parameter you would like to add? It could be the same name or it could be a different name also. I'll name it customer identity. I'm just giving you the same thing just to make it a little more easier. You can add multiple. And what is the resource name here? This is the name with which your your character is going to be created. Let me name it. Customer. Now we are looking only at one query string parameter, and that too for the get method. We are good with this. Now the step 3 is an entire data model is created for the connector. Your request parameters, your response parameters, your request data transform, response data transform, the classes. All of those would be created. For that, you need to tell what is the response type of your service. In case of your service is not up and running, you will at least still have an idea of what kind of data you're handling and what type is it. You can add in a file. You can add a file, you can choose the method. What is the, you can directly choose this, and this would give a prototype of what kind of data model are we looking at. Otherwise, you directly have an option. You can add a ST response, for example. Just run this. If you observe, this is your response of your service. In fact, you can just take this and then you can have it added on to our IEST response. By the way, it is fine. If your service is up and running, you can directly add the response. If not, you can add it as a file. It could be a JSON or a text file. You can add it and then you can have. You can run it from here itself. If you look, this is how it looks like. Yes, corresponding to 1, 1. I'm just submitting this data, and yes, now the connector has a sample of what kind of data it is going to use. Let us go ahead and now all those parameters that we have seen, like your date of birth, email, phone number, first name, last name, customer ID, all of that will be created as part of the connector also. Let us see. It was. We already created a data type customer, and there also it was. The same will get created again for connector as well. Correct? Correct? But it would be created on a separate class. They will be created on interrelated classes. Oh, now this is what I was talking about. You see, newly created data and integration rules will be saved as follows. An integration class. This is a new class that is created. XYZFHRS in get customer. This is the name of your connector get customer. This is your data layer. Then a dpage is created get customer. And I can also preview the record. What all have been created, how many were being created, you can see all of it. You see 7 classes were created, around 37 properties were created. One connector has to one SMLL, one data page, 2 data types. In all, you have got 49 records being generated. Let us create it. We'll see the status. You can track in the status. You see 49 records were created. And this is the data. As part of connector creation, it's always good that we check the working of it first before disclosing the result. Because if something had gone wrong, probably somewhere something is missing, it's easy that we can undo this. Rather than going back and creating or deleting each one of it individually, it's better we can undo the generation directly. But let's cross-check what all have been created is. Let's see. Far we were only worried about the work and the data layer. But now, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.